Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "Fine, we can play it that way if you want. I sell cars. I also work for a very corporate-run dealership that has a lot of rules, and depending on the level of management depends on their ability to discount blah blah right. I've also been with this dealer for a really long time, so I know how to play the game. It can be a pain in the butt at times, but if you learn how to play your cards right, you can take advantage of their rules. Now we have a rule. Once a new car hits 90 days, we start doing two things. We offer bonus to the salesperson who sells it, and we discount the car to move it. The idea if we want to move our old inventory first. So I'm chilling and I get a call. A guy is on a business trip and says he sees we got a truck he likes. I look it up and I notice it's been on our lot for over 140 days. It doesn't have a clearance discount on it. I give him the price I'm able to, and he asks me if I have any wiggle room since it's a 2020 and not a 2021. I go, "Would $500 do it?" He counters me roughly another $200 to bring it below a certain price point. I ask, "If I agree, will you give me a deposit right now?" He goes, "Yay." I go, "You know, yay, I'll do it, let's do a deal." Now the reason why I said $500 is because I know it's the maximum amount my sales manager can discount a vehicle without approval. When he counted me above that, I knew it was going to be a fight to get the deal accepted, but I figured giving a customer a $700 discount is better than giving him a $2,000 clearance discount. We do the deal, he signs it, and I send the deal up for approval. My manager yells at me, tells me I can't do the discount. I explain that it's an aged unit, it's supposed to have a clearance discount and it doesn't, so we should just do it. He says customer has to agree to a higher price. I go, "Fine, I'll talk to him." So I walk outside, play on my phone, answer some emails, come back and go, "Customer says honor the deal or refund him his money." Manager goes, "Can't do it, refund the money." I go, "Okie dokie." So I don't refund the money, but I drop the unit back in stock. I call up a higher level manager and point out that he screwed up and didn't do anything about this aged inventory. He thanks me for pointing it out and says we'll do $1,500 off and see how quick it sells. I ask, "What about a bonus?" He goes, "If you sell it, I'll give you a $150 bonus." I go, "Fantastic." Now I work for a dealer that doesn't pay me a 0% but a set amount per car, so this discount isn't cutting into my commission. I call the customer up and I say, "Hey Mr. Customer, I didn't notice it, but this morning the truck you did a deposit on was included in a clearance list. I'm going to give you the clearance discount and your price is now approx $800 lower." Customer is super happy, thinks I'm the best guy ever. I'm smiling because I just made an extra $150. Later that afternoon my manager comes in and goes, "Sting, did you drop that truck back in stock?" I said, "No, customer is going by it." He goes, "Oh, he agreed to a higher price." I smile and go, "Nope, I got a clearance discount on it." My manager smirks at me and goes, "You got a bonus too, didn't you?" I smiled and said, "Sure did." Malicious Compliance is my dealership refused to do the common sense thing and give a customer a $700 manager discount, so instead they gave me a $1,500 clearance discount and $150 bonus. The next one is titled, "Skip Safety? Pay the Price." So this happened in 2003, any dialogue is paraphrased, and I was working at an I-joist factory as the glue machine operator. Part of my job was to use a special tool that looked like a mini metal hockey stick around 18 inches long to check that the glue was running properly. Without this I can't check the glue safely. I could use a small stick and reach through the machine to check the far side. The near side was much easier because I wouldn't have to reach through the machine. I just got back for my Monday morning shift and my hockey stick was missing. That means it hasn't been seen since the last shift Friday before. There was a sketchy guy who worked the opposite shift as me who was known for stealing lunches, small tools, and nuts bolts, anything he thought he could steal, and somehow was never caught. I even called him Sketch to his face, so I think the same name can be used here. I went into the main office to speak to the safety coordinator about the missing tool. He told me to just use the small stick trick. I told him I was not shoving my arm into that machine. He said if I don't I can walk out right now. I walked out of his office and tried talking to the main boss about it, but he told me that he wasn't getting involved. I walked back into safety guy's office and told him I want it writing that he is ordering me to use improper tools for my job. He laughed and said, "No one has ever been hurt there before. I think you are safe." So he wrote it up and signed it and passed it to me. Activate malicious compliance. It was almost lunchtime and I had put my arm in the machine at least 6 times by then with nothing bad happening. Then it happened. As I reached through the machine, my glove got pinched between the roller press and crushed my hand. I needed 30-some stitches on 3 fingers, a tendon sewn back together. I had to get my pinky finger rebuilt because it crushed the bone, and dislocated my wrist. Lucky for me the line had an e-stop if something got jammed in the rollers. It still took another 10 minutes to loosen the rollers enough to get my hand out. By this time main boss, safety guy, and many others are standing around watching. That's when I looked at safety guy dead in the eye and said, "Aren't you glad you signed that paper this morning?" At the hospital they tried to talk me into getting workers' comp, but that meant I couldn't sue. When I wouldn't do that, the company offered a healthy sum if I didn't sue. A lump sum or a yearly payout for 10 years and medical covered. Both were more than fair offers, and since the company fired safety guy that day and held safety training courses for everyone, including office staff starting immediately, that I couldn't ask for more. I mean I could have, but the lump sum payout just ran out 3 years ago, so I think I did okay. And after lots of physio I have 90% use of my hand back. I could have gone for pro revenge, but I think they learned. They closed down around 5 years later. But that was due to the recession. The next one is titled, "Block My Pay because, as per your instruction, I violated the rules. Enjoy having your own income reduced." This all happened a few years back when I was in high school and distributing bundles of weekly advertising brochures around a neighborhood as a means to earn some spending money. What is important to note is that I did not work directly for the company that made these bundles. Instead, there was the middleman who was also paid by the company and who oversaw multiple neighborhoods in my area. When I got my first stack of bundles, in total this would be around 80 kilograms of paper, I noticed that I had a lot of leftovers after doing my round. This is because here in the Netherlands, you cannot put advertisements in someone's mailbox when they have a "no advertisement" sticker on it. I informed the middleman of this, asking if I could tell him how many bundles were left over and if he could make sure I got less of them. His response was that I would need to do a check of the stickers on my route, and report the exact addresses what did not want to receive the advertisements. I realized that this would cost me a lot of time and asked if this would be paid. His response was that I would not get paid for this and that my total pay would also decrease as I would be delivering fewer bundles. But then he said, "You can also just dump them in the paper trash, that also works." I'm guessing that he preferred that option as it would save him some administrative work, and because he probably also would have his earnings lowered by the main company when the surplus would be reported. This would probably also spark some questions as to the situation on the other routes he was responsible for. So, doing as he told me, once a month when the paper trash was collected I put the leftovers in the bin, and that was that. Sometimes our own bin would be too full, so I'd put them in another bin that was already on the street. As we do not pay per weight that is collected, this would not hurt the neighbors at all. This went on for about a year without any problems. The company, and especially this dude, were huge pains in the butt, delivering far too late for me to complete my route and forgetting when I was not available, resulting in them having to pick up all bundles from my house again after delivering them to me, and then getting mad because they forgot that I was not available. One day my neighbors also started working for this company and this dude, and they noticed some bundles in the trash. They told this dude, and here it comes, he blocked my pay and said I was fired immediately. The part that I was fired actually was fine with me. I quit 2 weeks prior, so I only had 2 weeks to go, so I got out sooner than I expected, which was nice. The part about blocking my pay annoyed me. He said that I violated the rules, but I pointed out that I just followed his rules. After some messaging back and forth, he did not reply for a while. That's when I decided to dial up the main company, who were in charge of paying out the salaries. I explained the whole story, including my instruction to dump the bundles to them. They apologized and made sure I was paid out. When I told this to the middleman, he was quite upset. I can only imagine the amount of crap he must have gotten from the main company for his behavior. I know that my neighbors had to do a check of all addresses after I left, so he probably had everyone do the check and saw his pay fall by a considerable margin, probably 20%, as that was what was left over every week. The next one is titled, Uno Reverse Racism. I worked out front for customers, and this was a funny encounter my managers laugh about to this day. I'm Asian and I understand if people ask me what kind because I look Chinese, but I'm Vietnamese and I grew up in Australia. So I don't have a district accent for any type of culture. Customer comes up to me and stares for a bit as I do my friendly welcome. What can I get you? Ni hao. Bose. Me, bonjour. Customer, oh, I'm not French. Me, oh, I'm not Chinese either. Customer, well, why would you assume I am French? Because I am white? That's quite rude and racist. I am European. Me, I don't see a difference of what you did to me. I'm not Chinese either, but you spoke to me in Chinese. I'm actually Vietnamese. At this point he goes red with embarrassment and points at the menu as my manager just giggles, knowing I'm in the right. The next one is titled, Do Everything to Keep a Salesman from Selling. Okay, let's see how that works out for you, boss. In college I worked for a computer parts store in their build your own section. Let's call this place Macro Point. I was a good seller and made a ton of money, something like $2,400 a check. I was very happy, and feeling myself. I even bought a shirt that said DJ Breadwinner and would wear it under my nice clothes all the time. The job was easy if you follow two simple rules. 1. Never sell them something they don't need, and 2. The customer only has the options you give them. The latter seems a bit disingenuous, but if you follow one, you'll never go wrong with 2. My two biggest abilities were that, A, I helped everyone and was very polite and energetic, so I got a lot of repeat customers who would wait and deal only with me, and B, I could sell warranties like nobody's business. The warranties were easy to sell, since we had an accidental damage plan on most items, and one that replaced components in a build if you paid us to build it. I would simply say something like, you want to buy the accidental damage plan, it may be expensive, but it lasts 3 years. Put that date in your phone, on your calendar, a week before it's up, throw this son of a witch at a wall and then come get the latest model for free. The plan says they might ask a few questions, but the truth is they didn't. With accidental damage, bring in a broke item, get the same, or if that's not available, usually not, get the latest price equivalent model. Most people took that bet and I was successful. Things were great until we got a new manager for our department. We'll call him Incompetito. He was, as his name implies, incompetent. He had come over from Circuit Metropolis and had been a store manager or something. Their business had just folded. He brought all kinds of new and stupid ideas to the department. The worst was switching how we did cleaning and stocking. Before, we cleaned at night and stocked periodically in the early morning when it was slow, when the truck came. Incompetito wanted us to clean in the morning, so we were on the floor for the early morning customers, and stock at night, because anything that wasn't fully stocked in our department through the day went up when we merchandised at night and cleaned. I think he was trying to stop us getting overtime or something. Which is stupid, cause we made like $5 an hour, plus commission. Our hourly wage was crap. The biggest problem here is that things off the truck are in the system, so when a customer wants something, the system says we have it, and it's not on the shelf. We have to waste time, not being on the floor, going to look for things in the pallets, and that hurts our sales. This is a completely stupid idea that failed spectacularly, and I earned the ire of Incompetito by going to the store manager after our objections were ignored and explaining it. I may have earned his undying ire when he told the store manager that that was the way they did it back at Circuit Metropolis, and I remarked that that was probably why they went out of business. In my defense, duck Incompetito. He was costing me like $500 a check. Eventually, this got fixed, but a new issue started and this one was really annoying. Now, we were not allowed to sell in other departments unless they were connected to or up sales on our builds. TV, Apple, games, and general section in the middle of the store. I and others had mastered up selling whole butt TVs instead of monitors and gaming peripherals and all that. We got a higher percentage of peripherals than core sales, so making a TV a peripheral was big money. Incompetito, who was trying to buddy up to the hot chick who ran the department, had forbid us to upsell TVs or hand that off as a separate thing for the TV people. This did not go over well in our department. As the lead salesman in my department, I was particularly upset, but he threatened write-ups for anyone who disobeyed, and the store manager was tired of us going around incompetito. So he just started saying, it's his department. He eventually forbade us from upselling anywhere else in the store. I'm like, cool, bet. Cue the malicious compliance. You see, even if it's from other departments, if the sale starts in our department, the numbers are attributed to our department. This here affects incompetito's bonus, but also, the only reason more TVs were being sold in the first place was that we were convincing gamers to get big TVs and use them as monitors instead of monitors. So, when we stopped doing that, units stopped going out with the same frequency and the numbers for our department dropped sharply. It was actually rough to get all the sales people to just stick to our department and not go around incompetito. But it only took about 2 months for anyone to start noticing the problem. They'd called a meeting of the departments and talked about TV and BYO underperforming. When they asked why, I feigned ignorance and just said we were following what incompetito said. We let the store manager slowly piece together why things were happening. Incompetito got chewed out, and TV lady, let's call her, Legs for Days, was also chewed out. We didn't know why at first, but apparently she'd done this to the manager before the manager that hired me. The one before incompetito was a woman, but her predecessor was a man. Apparently Legs for Days had a way of flirting and getting special treatment for her department and taking advantage of idiots like incompetito. I'd like to say that was the end and incompetito eased up and got out of the way. But no, he was petty and a dick. He conspired with Snake, someone of his own culture, to get rid of me. I found this out because Snake was popular with the girls, but also talked too much. He would allow Snake to upsell in our area and had one of the girls often remove my sticker and put Snake's on it. He started scheduling me at weird times and started selling the store manager on the idea that I was detrimental to the morale of the department. A lot of them were lazy and relied on the pool. When you don't help someone and they buy something, the money goes into the pool and is distributed amongst the entire department. If it doesn't look like a big build, some folks would just let that go to the pool. I did not, I helped everyone and turned small items into big purchases. Admittedly, that hurt everyone else's pockets, but we're told to help everyone and to absolutely not be lazy and let things go to the pool. So the weird way it ended up being explained to me is that if I sold 10 of an item, I got paid, let's say $100 because of a multiplier or whatever. But if I sold 5, and someone else sold 5, no one would get the multiplier, and thus they would pay each $40 or something, instead of paying $100 for the same amount of merch being sold. It was all convoluted and sounded like a bullshit excuse, but incompetito ended up convincing them that they couldn't afford me, right then. Normally they fire people on the spot because we've got a high risk of theft, but they let me work those last 2 weeks. I asked what he expected me to do, and he told me, I expect you to sell, so, sell I did. Cue malicious compliance 2. I was going to show them what they were losing. I wanted them to feel my absence. I was determined to try to break the sales record my last few days and totally came close. I was averaging something like 7,800 in sales, way up from my 3,000 a day, which still had me around the best. See, the record was somewhere around 14,000 in a day and I had hit 11,000 and 13,000, but sadly could not hit the record. But my numbers were insane during that time. My last check was stupid high. But alas, incompetito did manage to get me out of there, though store manager said he'd hire me back if things changed. Instead, incompetito waited a month and moved Snake into my place in the department. Needless to say, their numbers were not the same. I didn't get my closure on this until about 4 months later when I found incompetito and store manager had been fired. They opened a Bengal direct across the way and Macro Point had been losing clients and money. Worse, apparently my department hadn't really recovered from my loss. Things came to a head at a quarterly meeting when the regional manager came to present the top sales awards, and apparently I had won it, even missing 2 months or so of sales. No one had told him I had been fired, so he looked like an idiot trying to present the award. There was a banner and everything. I also found out that Snake got fired for 2 separate offenses, stealing, which they were investigating, and having sex with one of the cashiers in the back, which led to his immediate termination. It had come out that Incompetito had caught Snake before doing something inappropriate and just gave him a vague write-up. That the debacle with me and the low sales got Incompetito fired. I received a call to see if I wanted to come back, but I had already taken on extra classes by then. It's not the best, most thought-out malicious compliance. But it is what it is. The last one is titled, 1 More Minute? Okay, you get exactly 60 seconds. So I supervised a mum-and-pop restaurant for several years that dealt specifically with shrimp and fish. Outside of cleaning and prepping the stuff, the main deal was cooking it in several big old fryers. It's involved work, but it's not hard work. Just stick the basket of food in the fryer and set a timer for 3 minutes, and when it comes out just bag it up and give it to the customer. Easy work, though it gets a bit complicated on, let's say, a busy day like a Friday evening. And when it's Lent season, the busyness quadruples. So yeah, busy. When it's that busy, you can't exactly rely on timers as much, because there's so much food going in and out of the fryers, the temperature fluctuates. You have to eyeball it. I'll have food burning at 2.5 minutes, or some food taking up to 4 minutes to look right. During a Lent Friday night dinner rush, we'll get hundreds of people coming into a shop that's probably smaller than a middle-class living room. The waiting area on the other side of the counter was probably 20 feet by 7 feet, so it can get pretty cramped. I have my register person taking orders and making bags, and pushing them along the line while my wait table people can weigh out the food so I can start cooking them. When the order is done, I'd shove it in a bag and yell either the name or the order, and someone in the crowd would come grab it and be on their way. It's a very intimate setup. So I got a counter full of about 20 plus bags, each bag with a different order, and this one bag gets to me and it said, cook shrimp an extra minute. Now, like I said, the fryers cook funny when there's that much food going in and out, so using my years of shrimp frying experience, I extrapolate in my head what the food should look like if cooked for that long under normal conditions, and cook it until it looks like that. I pull the food up, and I hear an hum from behind me, and I look, and this lady apparently followed her bag down the line, waited for me to drop the food, and set her own timer. She said with a shitty "gotcha" attitude while looking at her own timer, "Yeah, you need to cook that for an extra 45 seconds. At this point, her food was already looking too done, but she interrupted my flow and gave me an attitude, so I blurted out, "Oh, okay," and set a timer for 45 seconds and put it on the counter. I bagged some other people's food, and I hear the lady behind me again, apparently with a little less condescension to her words this time, "Oh, I think it's done now," and I grabbed the timer that had I set right in front of her, looked at it, and yelled, with an equally condescending shitty "gotcha" attitude, "Oh, but you still have 17 seconds left," and smacked it down and waited until the timer went off. 17 seconds can feel like a long time in those kinds of situations. Finally, the timer went off. I grabbed her food, it looked burnt, I bagged it up and gave it to her and said, "Here you go, miss. Enjoy the rest of your day." She muttered a thank you and walked off, and my co-workers and customers had a little laugh about it. Never got a complaint. Thanks for listening.